Write part 1 of 1,200 words in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and without adding soft words, and use asterisk sign. In whole story and without heading. Write part 2 of 1,200 words in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and without adding soft words, and use asterisk sign. In whole story and without heading. Write part 3 of 1,200 words in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and without adding soft words, and use asterisk sign. In whole story and without heading. Write part 4 of 1,200 words in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and without adding soft words, and use asterisk sign. In whole story and without heading. Write part 5 of 1,200 words in a separate document, and it should be interesting, and write it in third-person style. And it should be in simple and basic English. Use simple and basic English and without adding soft words, and use asterisk sign. In whole story and without heading. Princess woke up 3 days later, and she wanted to walk. The recovery was fast and shocking. Dr. Laura Winters said she had never seen anything like it. Most patients needed weeks to recover from a serious blood infection. Was walking down the colony hallways in less than 72 hours. Her crystal skin glowed with health again. Her violet eyes were bright and clear. But something strange was happening. Refused to let Daniel leave her sight. When he was in the medical bay, she watched him. When he walked to the command center, she followed him. When he tried to go to his quarters to sleep, she stood outside his door. The security team did not stop her. In fact, they seemed to expect this behavior. Laura noticed it and pulled Daniel aside in the colony cafeteria. "She is attached to you," Laura said. "I mean, biologically. Your blood is still in her system. I think her body sees you as connected to her survival. It is like an animal imprinting on whoever saves it from danger." Daniel did not think it was just about blood connection. There was something more. Looked at him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. It was not romantic, not exactly. It was something deeper, something that came from her culture, something he did not fully understand. A week after she woke up, asked to talk with Daniel alone. They went to the observation deck. The deck had huge windows that showed the 2 moons of the planet below and the stars beyond. It was the most beautiful part of the colony, the place where people went to think about important things. Stood at the window for a long time before she spoke. Her voice was like wind chimes, soft and musical but also serious. "In my culture," she said, "blood is sacred. It is not just a liquid that moves through your body. It means something deep and real. When one person gives blood to another, especially when the gift saves a life, a bond is created. The giver and receiver become connected at a level that cannot be broken." Daniel listened but did not speak. He sensed that had more to say. "Your people probably think this is just a story or a tradition that means nothing," continued. "Your science would say it is only metaphor, only superstition. But among the it is law, it is reality. When you gave your blood to me, you did not just save my body. You tied your life to mine. We are connected now. You and I, this is not something that will fade or change." "I understand," Daniel said, though he was not sure he really did understand completely. "Do you?" Turned to look at him directly. Her violet eyes reflected the light of the stars. "Do you know what it means that you chose to risk yourself for me? You did not know me. You had never spoken to me before the moment you decided to give your blood. You risked your health, your future, maybe your life, for a stranger from another species. That is not normal behavior for most beings in the galaxy." Daniel shrugged. "You were dying, I could help, that was enough." "That is exactly what I mean," said. "You did not think about strategy. You did not calculate how my death would help or hurt your colony's position. You did not consider your own safety or benefit. You only saw someone in need and responded with the only thing you had to give. That is rarer than you know, Captain Hayes." They stood together in silence, looking out at the stars. Daniel was beginning to understand that his simple choice had meant something very different to the O than it meant to him. For him, it was medical action taken under pressure. For them, it was a sacred act that bound two people together forever. "My father will want to meet you," said after a long time. "The king of the O, he will want to thank you in person, and he will want to understand why you did this." "Will I be able to explain it to him?" Daniel asked. "No," said honestly. "He will not understand it the way you understand it, but he will respect it, and he will honor it. That is what matters in my culture." Over the next 2 weeks, recovered completely. Her body became strong again. She began to explore the colony, asking questions about how humans lived, how they thought, what they valued. She talked with the colony engineers about how they built things. She talked with the scientists about how they discovered new knowledge. She talked with the children about why they played the games they played. Everyone in the colony noticed that she was intelligent and curious, but everyone also noticed how she always ended these conversations by looking for Daniel, how she followed him through the corridors, how her eyes changed when she saw him. The O Council delegates also changed. They began to treat Daniel differently. They bowed more deeply. They used formal titles when they spoke to him. They offered him gifts from O technology. One delegate, an old male named, told Daniel that he had done something the O had not seen in 1,000 cycles. He had performed an act of pure compassion without expecting anything in return. "This is why we came to know humans," said. "We heard stories of a young species that survived on a harsh world. We thought perhaps they would be savage and brutal, but we were wrong. Your species has something we lost long ago. You still have the ability to care for strangers. You still have compassion." Daniel did not know how to respond to that. He had simply done what he thought was right. He did not think he was special or different, but the O, and especially, seemed to see him as something remarkable. On the day before was scheduled to return to the O fleet, she came to Daniel's quarters. She brought a small crystal object with her, something that glowed with a soft light from within. "This is from my family," she said. "It is a memory crystal. It holds images and sounds from the day my father saved me as a child when I almost died from a disease. He gave his blood to me then, and I survived. This crystal holds the record of that day. I am giving it to you now because you have done the same thing my father did. You have become part of my family's story, and I wanted you to know that my family sees you as one of us." Daniel took the crystal. It was warm in his hand, and it pulsed with a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. "What happens now?" Daniel asked. Smiled, and it was a smile that held 1,000 meanings. "Now, Captain Hayes, the galaxy finds out what you did, and everything changes." The warning came at midnight. Commander burst into Daniel's quarters with his communication device already active. He did not even apologize for the interruption. He went straight to business. "We have a situation," said. "Sensor arrays are picking up ships entering the outer system. A lot of ships. They are moving fast, and they are not broadcasting any identification codes." Daniel was awake instantly, military training overriding the sleep in his mind. He pulled on his uniform and ran to the command center with. The tactical display showed exactly what it described. 37 dots arranged in attack formation, moving toward the colony at high speed. "Who are they?" Daniel demanded. "Unknown," the sensor officer said. "They are not O. The signature patterns do not match anything in our database, but their weapons configuration suggests military designation. They are preparing for combat." Daniel felt cold certainty settle in his chest. This was not a trade ship. This was not a peaceful visitor. This was a war fleet, and they were coming straight for the colony. The council delegates were already in the secure chamber when Daniel arrived. All except. She was on the bridge, staring at the tactical display with a face that had gone pale, even for her crystal-like features. "The Ran," she said. "It is the Ran." Everyone turned to look at her. "Explain," Daniel said. His hands shook as she pointed to the approaching ships. "5 cycles ago, my father refused them something they wanted. It was territory. They wanted to expand their control into the O sphere of influence. My father said no. The Ran are a military culture. They believe that any refusal is an insult that must be answered with force. But they could not attack the O directly because we have defensive alliances with other powerful species. So they waited. They looked for another way to start a war." She turned to look at Daniel with fear in her violet eyes. "And then I was here, weak and dying in a human colony. They must have learned that I was here. This is their chance. They will attack the colony, claim that I was not protected properly, and demand that my father allow them into O territory to recover me. If he refuses, they will have proof that the O cannot keep their promises to their allies. It will destroy the alliance system." Did not waste time on shock. He was already issuing commands. "All personnel to defensive stations. Activate the shield generators. Prepare the colony's weapon systems. Launch satellite arrays for early warning." But shook her head. "Those ships are more advanced than you know. Your satellites will be destroyed before they reach orbit. Your shields will fail under their weapons' fire. This colony was not built for war. You do not have the technology to stand against them." Daniel studied the tactical display. Was right. The colony's defenses were designed for accidents and disasters, not for military assault. The Ran ships were built for war. There was no way the colony could win a direct fight. "How long until they reach firing range?" Daniel asked. 43 minutes, the sensor officer answered. 43 minutes. Thousands of people depended on Daniel to keep them alive. Thousands of people who had families, who had dreams, who had chosen to come to this colony to build something new. And in 43 minutes, all of that could be destroyed. Daniel made a decision that he knew would make him unpopular. He looked at and said, "Order all non-essential personnel to the underground shelters. We are going to fight, but we are not going to surrender the colony to them." Hal asked, "You saw those ships. We cannot match their weapons' power." "No," Daniel agreed, "but we can be smarter than they expect." He pulled up the colony's basic systems, the resonance frequency generators. They were designed to keep asteroids and falling rocks away from the colony by creating waves of energy that pushed objects away. Simple technology, but effective for its purpose. "Can we modify these?" Daniel asked the engineering team. The chief engineer, a man named Stephen, looked at the specifications. "Maybe. What do you want to do?" "Scale them up," Daniel said. "Increase the frequency and the power. I want them to work as a weapon." Stephen stared at the display. "Sir, if we increase the power that much, we could damage the entire power grid. We could hurt ourselves as much as the enemy." "But it might work," Daniel pushed. "It might," Stephen admitted. "But I would need to be sure about the frequency. If I get it wrong, we could just make the enemy angrier and more able to fight back." Stepped forward. She had been quiet, watching the displays and listening to the conversation. Now she spoke with authority. "The Ran have mineral-based technology. Their ships are built from crystalline metals and silicate compounds. These materials are sensitive to resonance waves. If you create the right frequency, it should cause cascading electromagnetic failure in their systems. Not all at once, but enough to disable their weapons and engines." Stephen's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" "Because the O studied them," said. "We knew someday we might need to fight them. We learned their weaknesses. The frequency you need is 847 Hz. That is the resonance point for the compounds they use." The engineering team moved fast. They worked frantically to modify the generators to increase the power to prepare the system for activation. Daniel watched the clock. 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. The RAN ships began to transmit demands. The voice that came through was hard and cold and certain of its own power. Human colony, this is RAN War Commander Thrace. You are in possession of O royalty. Release the princess immediately, dismantle your defenses, and surrender your military technology. You have 1 hour to comply. If you refuse, this colony will be destroyed and all inhabitants will be eliminated. Daniel did not respond. There was nothing to say that would matter to them. He only waited, watching the countdown timer as the enemy ships moved closer and closer. 10 minutes until firing range. 5 minutes. The RAN opened fire first. Their weapons came like thunder and lightning across space. Brilliant red beams of energy struck the colony's shields. Explosions lit up the outer buildings. Alarms screamed throughout the facility. Daniel watched the tactical display. The shields were holding, but they were failing fast. The outer buildings were taking damage. He could see people running toward the shelters on the colony communications network. Activate the resonance generators at full power, Daniel commanded. Now. Stephen hesitated for less than a second, then pressed the final command codes. The generators hummed to life, a sound that started low and built higher and higher in frequency until it was beyond the normal range of hearing. On the tactical display, something extraordinary happened. One by one, the RAN ship's weapons went dark. Their shields flickered and failed. Their propulsion systems sparked with electrical discharge and shut down completely. The entire attack fleet, designed to be invulnerable, was rendered helpless in a single moment of pure human ingenuity. The RAN voice came back over the communication system, and for the first time, it carried fear. This is War Commander Thrace. All ships are experiencing system failures, requesting immediate assistance. All ships are experiencing system failures. The colony fell silent. No more weapons fire, no more explosions, just the settling dust and the dying echoes of alarms. The attack that should have destroyed the human colony had failed. Against all odds, against impossible circumstances, humanity had won. But the victory was only the beginning, because out in the galaxy, the message was already spreading. The story of how humans defeated a military fleet that even the O respected. And it had happened because of one man's choice to give his blood to save a princess. The RAN War Commander Thrace requested negotiation under flag of truce. Daniel agreed, but he made sure the colony's shield stayed active. He made sure every weapon was still ready. He learned a long time ago that peace was easier to keep when the other side knew you could fight. Thrace came to the colony with only 2 guards. He was large, much larger than a human, with a body covered in sharp edges and hard plates. His skin was dark gray, almost black, and his eyes were cold and empty like the void of space. When he moved, there was power in every step. This was a being bred for war, designed for combat, raised to believe that violence was the answer to every problem. He stood in the diplomatic room and looked around with clear disgust at the simple human furnishings. "You defeated my fleet," Thrace said. "It was not a question." "Yes," Daniel replied. "I prefer that you do not attack us again." Thrace's expression did not change, but Daniel noticed his hands tighten into fists. "Your technology should not be capable of that level of disruption. Our analysis shows this is impossible." "And yet it happened," Daniel said calmly. Thrace sat down without being invited. He studied Daniel with the intensity of someone measuring an opponent before a fight. "The O Princess. She gave you the frequency information, yes. She betrayed her own security protocols to help you." Daniel did not answer immediately. Thrace leaned forward. "She gave you the information because of the blood bond," Thrace said. "It was not a question either. I have heard the stories. The human who gave his blood to save the princess. The human who showed compassion to an alien. My people do not understand such weakness. But the O, they understand it. And the princess understood it. She was willing to risk everything for you because you first risked everything for her." Daniel felt something shift in the conversation. The RAN commander was no longer threatening. He was just observing, analyzing, trying to understand something that did not fit into his worldview. "You won," Thrace said finally. "You defeated a military force that has not lost a battle in 300 cycles. You defeated us with technology that we did not know you had. And you defeated us because one of your people showed mercy to a stranger. In my culture, this makes no sense. In my culture, mercy is death. But I am intelligent enough to understand that perhaps my culture is not the only way." He stood up slowly. "I withdraw the attack. I will take my fleet and leave this system. When I return to my command, I will tell my superiors that the humans are not prey. They are not a weak species to be conquered. They are a species that must be respected." After Thrace and his guards left, Daniel felt the exhaustion wash over him like a wave. He had not slept in more than 30 hours. He had faced an attack from a superior force. He had made a desperate gamble that could have failed, and somehow he had won. Found him in the diplomatic room, staring at nothing. "The RAN are withdrawing," said. "Their ships are powering up what remains of their engines. They are leaving the system." "Good," Daniel said. "We won," added. "I do not think people realize what that means yet. We defeated the RAN. Word of this is going to spread through the galaxy. Every species is going to know that humans can fight, that we can win, that we are not just a young colony of easy targets." Daniel nodded slowly. He had been thinking about that too. The message would spread quickly through galactic networks. By tomorrow, every trading post would know. By next week, every major power would have heard the story. The implications were enormous. But there was something else that bothered Daniel. He went to the observation deck and found waiting for him there, as he somehow knew she would be. She was looking out at the RAN ships as they powered up their damaged engines and began to move away from the colony. "You told them the frequency," Daniel said. "It was not a question." "Yes," admitted. "I could have refused. I could have stayed silent and allowed your colony to be destroyed. My father would never have known. My people would have mourned me, but they would have understood that I chose my honor over politics." "But you did not choose that," Daniel said. "No," said. "I chose you. I chose my connection to you. I chose to honor the bond that your blood created. In my culture, that is the highest law. That is the most important thing. A blood bond outranks everything, outranks politics, outranks loyalty to your own people. I could not let you die. I would not let you die." Daniel looked at the princess. She was not the frightened, dying woman he had first met. She was strong now, healthy, alive, and she had risked her entire position in her own government to help him save his colony. "What will happen to you when your father learns that you gave away secret military information to help a human colony?" Daniel asked. Smiled. "My father will not be angry. My father will understand. He gave his blood to save me when I was a child, just as you gave your blood to save me when I was dying. He will recognize the bond. He will honor what I did because it is the law of our people. And more than that, he will begin to see humanity the way that I now see humanity. He will see a species that is worthy of respect, worthy of trust, worthy of alliance." Over the next few hours, more and more people arrived at the colony to see if the RAN ships had truly left. They came with supplies, with medical aid, with equipment to repair the damaged buildings. They came because the O had sent them. The king of the O himself had ordered assistance for the colony that had saved his daughter. Daniel received a message on the priority channel. It was from the king, transmitted across thousands of miles of space. The king's voice was deep and carried the weight of authority and age. "Captain Daniel Hayes," the king said, "I have received the report of what you did. You saved my daughter's life. You defeated an enemy that my own military is still learning to stand against. You did this not for reward, not for recognition, but because you saw someone in need and responded with compassion. My daughter has told me that this is the human way. I want you to know that the O will remember what you have done. We will honor the blood bond that connects you to my family." and we will stand with humanity against any who would threaten you." When the message ended, the entire command center was silent. Daniel understood that his life, and the life of his entire species, had just changed in a way that could not be undone. The humans were no longer invisible to the galaxy. They were no longer a young species trying to find their place. They were now a people who had proven themselves worthy of respect through one man's willingness to give his blood to save a stranger. He had not known, when he made that choice in the medical bay, that it would lead to this moment. He had only known that someone was dying and he could help. That simple choice had changed everything. And now the galaxy would have to learn to see humanity in a completely new way. The news traveled faster than any ship could carry it. Within 3 days, every major trading post across the galaxy had heard the story. Within a week, even the most distant colonies knew what had happened. A human captain had given his blood to save an alien princess. And then humanity had defeated the Ran, a military power that other civilizations treated with careful respect and sometimes fear. The story changed as it spread. Some versions said the human had performed a sacred ritual to bind the princess to him forever. Some versions said the human captain was secretly a warrior of incredible skill who had been waiting for a chance to prove human strength. Some versions said the humans had ancient technology that they had been hiding from the rest of the galaxy. The truth was simpler and more powerful than any of these invented stories. One human had seen someone dying and had given what he had to offer. That simple act of compassion had created a connection that saved not just one life, but potentially millions of lives on both sides. Stayed in the colony for another month after the Ran attack. She worked with the scientists and engineers, sharing own knowledge that helped improve the colony's technology. She ate human food, though she said it was strange to her. She learned human games and played with the colony's children. And every day she spent time with Daniel, talking about their two cultures and how they were more similar than either species had expected. The letters started arriving after the second week. Offers of trade agreements, requests for official diplomatic relations, invitations to join galactic councils. Species that had ignored humanity's request for communication suddenly wanted to negotiate. Species that had thought humans were a curiosity now thought they were important. Daniel received a letter from a group called the Confederation of Free Worlds. They wanted to know if humanity would be interested in joining their organization. Another letter came from the Merchants Guild. They wanted to establish trading routes to the human colony. A third letter came from a scientific consortium that wanted to study human genetics and psychology, because they believed humanity held secrets that could benefit all species. Read through the letters and shook his head in amazement. 6 months ago, we were trying to convince anyone to take us seriously. Now everyone wants to talk to us, all because you gave your blood to a princess. That is not the real reason, Daniel said. The real reason is that they are afraid. They saw that they did not understand us. They saw that we could do things they did not expect. Fear is a better teacher than politeness. Fear makes people pay attention. Left on the same ship that her father sent to retrieve her, but before she departed, she gave Daniel a gift. It was a small crystal object, similar to the one she had given him before, but this one contained something different. It held images and sounds from her family's most important ceremonies, from the day her father had been crowned as king, from the first meeting between O and human explorers. It held moments that were sacred to her people, and she was sharing them with Daniel. "This is so you remember," said. "This is so you never forget that the blood bond between us connects our people. You are O now, Captain Hayes, not by birth but by action. My people will know your name and honor it." Daniel took the crystal. It was warm in his hand, and it pulsed with that gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. "Will I see you again?" he asked. "Yes," said with certainty. "The blood bond does not fade. It grows stronger with time. We will see each other again. And when we do, our people will be true partners, not just curious strangers trying to understand each other." After left, Daniel found himself thinking more and more about what had happened. He replayed the moment over and over in his mind. The moment when Dr. Winters had said there was nothing more they could do. The moment when he had made the decision to give his blood. The moment when he had not calculated the cost or the benefit. He had simply acted because it was the right thing to do. 1 month after left, the galaxy received the news. The O had officially declared humanity as a protected alliance member. Any attack on humanity would be considered an attack on the O themselves. At the same time, the Merchants Guild announced the establishment of permanent trading relations with the human colony. Within weeks, new ships began arriving, bringing supplies and technology and goods that the colony had never had access to before. Sent a message on the anniversary of the day he had given his blood. Her voice came through the colony communication system, crystal clear and warm. "Captain Hayes," she said, "my father wanted me to tell you that the O Historical Archives are now recording your name and the story of what you did. You are the first human to be honored in our historical records. My people sing songs about you now. They tell the story of the human who gave his blood to save a princess. They tell the story of compassion that changed the galaxy. I hope you understand what that means. I hope you understand that your choice to be kind has become immortal." The colony grew and prospered in the years that followed. New humans arrived from Earth, wanting to be part of this place that had become known to the galaxy. New species sent ambassadors, wanting to understand humanity better. The colony that had been struggling for survival became a center of learning and trade and cooperation. Daniel never saw himself as a hero. He never thought of himself as someone special or remarkable. He was just a man who had been in the right place at the right moment and had made a choice that his heart told him was right. He did not think about the consequences. He did not worry about what other people would think. He only knew that someone was dying and he could help. But that simple choice had taught the galaxy something important. It had taught them that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons or their technology. It was in their ability to see a stranger and recognize their shared nature. It was in their willingness to give when others would take. It was in their capacity for compassion, even when compassion would cost them something precious. The galaxy would never be the same after Captain Daniel Hayes gave his blood to save an alien princess. Because one act of pure kindness had shown the universe what humanity truly was. Not a species to be feared or conquered. Not a species to be ignored but a species worthy of respect, worthy of friendship, worthy of standing as equals among the stars. And it had all started with one simple truth. A human, facing an impossible choice, had chosen to give everything he had to save someone he did not even know. And in doing so, he had given humanity something far more valuable than technology or weapons or power. He had given them hope.